Well, how do you like that, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the show. I'm Marc Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show here at the Steven Sager Studios. Let me just address this before we get to that beautiful, that gorgeous, I'll even go voluptuous, 76ers win over the Wizards last night. Absolutely lovely. 129 to 112 win as the Sixers advance to play now the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference semifinals, where unfortunately the Sixers season has ended 2 out of the last 3 years, and now they'll have an opportunity to hopefully push through that part of the playoffs and move hopefully to the Eastern Conference Finals. But let me just get to this. Yesterday, I expressed, by the way, Rich Hofmann is today's guest. Look forward to talking to our friend Rich Hofmann. He joins the show yet again. I believe it's his second time making an appearance on the show from The Athletic. So we'll talk to Rich Hofmann about all things Sixers. But yesterday, I expressed a lot of optimism about Joel Embiid, even being as optimistic as to say that he was going to play in last night's game. I felt that way because of Adrian Wojnarowski and his reporting. I felt that way from our guest yesterday, John Clark, putting it out there. And John and I had a little back and forth yesterday on on text message. And he basically felt optimistic, and I felt optimistic that Joel Embiid was going to play last night. I do feel, though, at this point, with all that noise coming out, all that smoke coming out of the 76ers locker room or front office, that they too are optimistic that he will play in this postseason and even in this series coming up against the Atlanta Hawks. We'll get Rich Hofmann's opinion on that in a second. But obviously that was not the case last night. However, Joel Embiid did take part in shoot-around before the game last night. So the fact that he's not hiding, the fact that he's actually out there in public, the fact that he was actually on the court, the fact that the fans that were down there at the Wells Fargo Center that were just coming through the TV were making noise for him as he was out there on the court gives me even more optimism that he's not going to be shut down long-term. They're going with physical therapy. He will play in this postseason, possibly even in this series. The fact that he didn't play in last night's game does make me a little cautious as to whether or not he'll play in this upcoming series. However, I do believe he will play against the Hawks. It might not be on Sunday. It might not be on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever they play again after that, but he will play in this series against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, here's what's interesting. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I just want to say this. I know a lot of times you'll look over the regular season schedule and see what a team did, especially a year like this, where it's been jumbled up a little bit with the schedule. The schedule against the Atlanta Hawks this year was just odd, very odd, especially when you look at the rosters that played in those games. Ben Simmons barely played in one of those games. Joel Embiid was just coming off of injury, or you didn't have Ben Simmons in one of the games, whatever it might have been. Trey Young maybe wasn't playing in that game. Maybe Nate McMillan wasn't the head coach at that time. Maybe it was Lloyd Pierce. I mean, it's just a wild ride that the Sixers and Hawks had in their 3 games. Sixers took 2 of 3 in that series against the Hawks throughout the season, including winning both games of a back-to-back in late April it was. But really, you can't take a lot out of the season series against the Atlanta Hawks. But I digress. We'll get more into that with Rich Hofmann coming up a little bit later. I'm watching this game last night, and they did what I thought they would do. Ben Simmons played a lot of the 5, and that's exactly what they needed to do. They needed to have Ben Simmons down at the 5 spot. I couldn't figure out for the life of me why Doc Rivers was having Ben Simmons bring the ball up when it wasn't transition and he was supposed to be the center, because all he was really doing every single time up the court, about 99% of the time up the court, was dribbling the ball up to the top of the key, dishing off to Seth Curry. Now, that was bad last night. Seth Curry was hot as hell, whatever. Tobias Harris, dishing off to Tobias Harris. And then he would go down to around the block, but not on the block, and just kind of just hang out there. He wasn't getting rebounds in the first half. He was barely getting assists in the first half. He certainly wasn't getting a lot of points in the first half. Went to the line a couple of times. That was great. Everyone was amped up for that. But really, you weren't getting a lot out of Ben Simmons. Then the second half started, and he was a much different player. He went to the rim aggressively as the ball-dominant guard one time in terms of bringing it up the floor and trying to beat somebody off the dribble to get to the rim and throw it down. One time that happened in the first half. There was another time where he went to the rim on a fast break and was able to throw it down when he got the alley-oop. I believe it was finished. The alley-oop was from Tobias Harris. He threw it down. That was great to see. But really, the aggressive attacking Ben Simmons, we didn't really see get going until the second half of play. And that's when the Sixers really took over. Go figure that it was directly tied to Ben Simmons being aggressive. And that's what becomes so frustrated for a lot of us who do admire Ben Simmons' game and go, well, where is that all the time? That kind of thing. But it really comes down to, I believe, two things. It comes down to the obvious, Seth Curry just being on fire from the outside for the Sixers last night, especially in a game not just where you had Ben Simmons struggle in the first half, but where Danny Green was just off the mark throughout, and he's supposed to be one of your marquee shooters, obviously, and he wasn't last night. But Seth Curry last night was the guy that you could go to almost on every possession and have confidence that he was going to get you points. That was a huge difference in the ballgame. But the change in momentum and the shift from, wow, this is a game to, okay, they're wrapping this up tonight, no doubt about it. The main reason you felt that way in the second half wasn't because of Seth Curry. It was because of the way that Ben Simmons was playing basketball, defensively speaking and offensively speaking. And in that offensive set, I'm talking about the way he was attacking the rim, the way he was setting up his teammates, and also the way he was being able to pull down rebounds in that second half. And no better example than really what he was able to do in the fourth quarter. I think he had five rebounds in the fourth quarter alone. So he was definitely being aggressive on both ends of the court, trying to make things happen. And then a guy that filled in the gaps when you needed some scoring off the bench. Furkan Korkmaz helped you out. Yes, he did, no doubt. But the guy that really impressed me off the bench was Tyrese Maxey. I can't get over the fact that this kid is a late first-round pick, and you would never know it by watching him. I was excited when the Sixers drafted him. I thought, a year or two, you get a development, you develop this guy. Doc Rivers gets to have this guy for a couple of years here and really develop that talent. Sam Cassell on your coaching staff has an opportunity to develop him as well. And he just came out last night, and he was driving at Bradley Beal. He was driving at Russell Westbrook. He did not care who was in front of him. He was going to attack the rim and be aggressive. And it was just a beautiful sight to watch that young man play basketball last night. And he didn't care. He wasn't scared. He was brimming with confidence. I was looking at him last night, and even one or two people tweeted me. I think it was our friend Dan Schwartz from our comment section here on. It was Dan, as a matter of fact. That hit me up and said, how much longer after the first time? How much longer do people say, why isn't Maxey getting more of Ben Simmons' minutes? And I'm not saying that thought crossed my mind, and Dan was joking when he said it. However, one thing that did cross my mind was, wow, Tyrese Maxey knows to attack the rim, but Ben Simmons, who's a three-time All-Star, and is at his best when he's doing that, isn't really attacking the rim in the first half. But thank goodness that changed in the second half. And like I said, that was really – everything else was kind of keeping pace, keeping it a game. The game changed to a Sixers-dominated ball game when Ben Simmons became a dominant force driving the paint and making things happen. That's when the game really changed. It was phenomenal to see. And when you're watching this game play out, you just saw how much fun Matisse Thybulle was having, Ben Simmons was having, Tyrese Maxey was having. All these guys, Dwight Howard at one point, when I think it was the first time Ben Simmons went to the line after our friend John Clark tweeted out earlier in the day that Ben Simmons got to the gym at 3:45, I think it was that afternoon, just to get right to the foul line and start shooting foul shots to get ready for Hack-a-Ben, if that's what it came down to again in this game, which is exactly what it did come down to in this game early on, not later, but early on. He was definitely put to the line by Scotty Brooks. And he was a much better free throw shooter for you last night. 5 of 8, I think, is what he finished at last night. So that was much better to see that. And it seemed like with the amount of confidence he had at the line, Scotty Brooks was a little bit hesitant to do that later in the ball game, which was nice. But when you did see Ben Simmons go to the line, you see Dwight Howard sitting off to the side on the bench, and he's got like a smirk on his face when the place went bonkers when Ben Simmons hit his first free throw. It just looked like this team was having a lot of fun. We're going to get to Doc Rivers' comments after the game in a minute when it comes to Ben Simmons' game overall and how happy and how proud he was of Ben Simmons and what he was able to do in last night's victory and really how he was a difference maker in the game. So we're going to get to that. But this team is just having a blast. And listening to Seth Curry after the game last night, he was doing an interview with NBC Sports Philadelphia, Marc Zumoff after the game, a little post-game hit. And Seth Curry, after 30 points in the game, reveals that in the afternoon before their pregame nap, he and Ben Simmons will play Warzone, which for those who don't know is a video game. Video game I haven't played. So for everyone watching on Twitch right now, Miss Guzzi, I don't know Warzone too well. I'm aware of the other one, the what is it called? Everyone's out there. It dominated the scene for like 2 years in terms of whatever. I'm blanking on it right now. But anyway, now it's gonna bother me. But anyway, they're playing Warzone, and Ben Simmons says to Seth Curry, "Hey man, I don't need 30 from you tonight." And Seth Curry's like, "Yeah man, you got it." And then Ben Simmons says, "Yeah, and you're gonna get 30, and I'm gonna get a triple double." And sure enough, what happened? Exactly that. Ben Stradamus, I guess, predicting what would take place in that game. But this team just looks like they're having a lot of fun right now. This team looks like they're clicking on all cylinders, albeit without Joel Embiid, and now they need to carry it into the next series against the Hawks. Even if Joel Embiid, even if they do go the extra mile and say, forget about it, we don't need Joel Embiid in this series, we'll keep him rested, I still see them winning this series. That's not to say the Hawks are some terrible basketball team, but I do think the Sixers can win that series still in 5 or 6 games at most without Joel Embiid. And that's no disrespect to the Hawks. I followed very closely what they were doing against the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are just not that good a basketball team. Sixers are a very good basketball team. And the Sixers were a good team even without Joel Embiid in the lineup when they had to be without him for the 13, 14 games that they didn't have him this year. So I like what the Sixers are going to be able to do in this series. I like how they match up in this series, especially when you have such a good defensive team in the 76ers taking on a pretty strong offensive team when you talk about what they could do with the Atlanta Hawks and how versatile they are as scorers. But just in terms of how loose this Sixers team was, I don't know what it is. I find it hilarious when players crash other players' press conferences. And NBC Sports Philly put this out last night. Matisse Thybulle butted in on Tyrese Maxey's press conference last night. So wouldn't you know it, when Matisse Thybulle has his own press conference, what happens with the sophomore player, Matisse Thybulle? He gets his press conference interrupted by the rookie Tyrese Maxey.
Just drawing people over, and people are so scared. Oh God!
Yeah, you messed up my interview. I messed up yours.
Did you go find him just for this? This is ridiculous. What kind of operation are we running here?
Yes, he's a great defender. Yeah, he's really good. I'm very proud of him. I told him to shoot that 3 in the corner. He made it. So hey, look.
Yo, go home. Go get work. I have no words.
Kind of relaxed. It shows you how relaxed they are, how loose, how confident, and how good they feel just going into the second round of the playoffs. Now, Tyrese Maxey hasn't been a part of those teams that got bounced out in the second round of the playoffs 2 years in a row. Once to the quadruple doink and the other time to the Boston Celtics, who, we'll talk a lot about later. But he hasn't been a part of that. He's only been part of a playoff team that got swept by the Boston Celtics last year. Let's make some new history. While the Nets and the Bucks, I believe, are going to beat the crap out of each other in this next round, try to have it as easy as possible against the Atlanta Hawks in this series. Have fun, be loose, and be confident, and I think you're going to roll in this series to the point where you never feel like you're going to lose the series. You might lose a game. You might lose 2 games in this series, but I don't think we're ever going to be in a point where it's like, oh, my God, they're going to get bounced out in the second round again. I don't think it'll be anything like that. Ben Simmons was very interesting in his post-game press conference. All that mattered to him, they were talking to him about the triple-double. They're talking to him about things changing in the second half. And at one point, he was asked, how do you measure your success in this game? And he said, the only thing that mattered was just going to the next round. And that's exactly what you want to hear from a star basketball player. You don't want to hear anything about how, the triple-double is really great. No. It was all about just winning and the team win that they had yesterday against the Hawks. And Ben Simmons was jumping up on the sidelines. He was jumping up on the baseline with double teams, trying to square off Bradley Beal. Doc Rivers got into that after the game, how Bradley Beal just played a lot of minutes. Before they surrendered, basically at the 4:15 mark of the fourth quarter, when they were down almost 20 points, That's when Scotty Brooks was like, all right, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, you guys are done. Season's done. See you later. And the Sixers were just, I mean, it was Sixers game from that point on. I mean, it was already their game, but it was really their game once you took out their two-star basketball players. But Ben Simmons was just all over the place in terms of helping out with double teams as well. So all the more credit to Ben. And I felt like in that second half in particular, everything Doc Rivers gets into when it comes to talking about how good Ben Simmons' game is, I feel like in that second half, that's really when you saw everything on full display, from leadership to defense to assists to rebounds to all those other things that he does so well. You saw a lot of that in that second half, including making some foul shots as well. So overall, very impressed with the way the Sixers won that game in every facet. And how about this? Tobias Harris has a very quiet 28 points. It's quiet mostly because 8 of his points came from the free throw line. He did hit a couple threes for you last night. He played 37 minutes, shot 9 of 17, had 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 28 points. And still, Steph Curry, 30 points, and Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey will get a lot more play, I know, from me, as they just did, and Sixers fans in general for the way that those three played. And then, wow, Tobias Harris, 28 points. Wow. It's the type of thing where Tobias Harris is almost like a referee. Tobias Harris is almost like an offensive lineman. He's like, you only really talk about him if you don't see him producing well or if you see him getting beat. But it's become so common where Tobias Harris will shoot, it'll get you 25, maybe 20 to 25, maybe even 28 points, whatever. And we're like, yeah, that's what Tobias does every single night. That's the type of production he gets you. And the only time we're always like, oh, Tobias Harris really needs to get it going is when he's not getting it going. Oh, I need more from Tobias Harris. He got more, certainly got more from him last night. And I'm still talking more about, I'm guilty of this as well. I'm still talking more about Tyrese Maxey. I'm still talking more about Ben Simmons. I'm still talking more about Seth Curry, even more about Doc Rivers, the head coach. But yeah, no doubt, Tobias Harris just played some great basketball for the Sixers last night as well. Coming up in a second, we're going to get into some things that went around the NBA last night, most notably what happened in New York with the Atlanta Hawks and the way that Trey Young ended that series in New York. We'll let you hear from Trey Young. We'll let you also hear from Doc Rivers a little bit later in the show. And like I said, we're about to talk to Rich Hofmann from The Athletic. But before we go any further, I do want to tell you about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Ladies and gentlemen, do what I do. Go to Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. The competition must really hate this guy because he makes the experience of buying a diamond so fun, so enjoyable. You don't have to worry about negotiating. You don't have to worry about haggling. You can just worry about what beautiful piece of jewelry you want to buy at Steven Singer Jewelers, because every single day you get the perfect price. Every day. No sale, no promo code. No. Oh, was the sale yesterday? Did I miss it? No. You never miss the sale at Steven Singer Jewelers, because you're always getting taken care of every day with the perfect price. You'll never pay more than the person next to you, because here's a little insider tip. Most jewelers, they like to mark up the merchandise just to mark it down in front of you when you negotiate, make you feel like you won something, right? No. They just want you to not worry about negotiating, not worry about that pressure, not worry about if the person next to you is paying more than you or less than you. They just want you to know that you're taken care of every single day with the perfect price. Steven Singer Jewelers guarantees that perfect price all day, every day, 365 days a year. That's why I trust. That's why we trust Steven Singer Jewelers. Check it out, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, or online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. All right, let's talk to, from The Athletic, our friend Rich Hofmann, who was kind enough to join us after the game last night. Here is Rich Hofmann talking all things Sixers and what this series looks like ahead when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks. Zatos Investments guest line. Please welcome back to the show from The Athletic. And you can also catch his podcast twice a week, Sixers Beat with Rich Hofmann. Rich, what's going on, brother?
Mark, what is up, my friend?
It came through the television. I can't imagine what it was like at the Wells Fargo Center, but the electricity came through the TV, man. What was it like to be down there?
It's been fun. I mean, it's been fun, I would say, the entire series. This was more people than we've had up to this point. But yeah, great crowd. And you kind of sense coming into the game that it was going to be one of those games. It's like, hey, shorthanded, didn't play well on the road the last game, trying to figure some things out. Like you were going to need, some big moments from the crowd, and they delivered. And that's been the story of the Sixers in good times and bad times over the past few years. They really don't lose a lot in that building. And that's a nice thing to have,
That certainly is. And before we get to the game itself, I do want to talk about why they were shorthanded. I actually figured this was good news with Joel Embiid. I mean, considering what it could have been, which is done for the playoffs, the meniscus tear isn't the worst possible news. How severe do you really think this injury is?
It's hard to say. I mean, it just seems like from their end, there's still a lot of uncertainty. Like they will tell you straight up that they think he is day to day. But I don't know. It's a little bit hard for me to reconcile meniscus tear and day to day. Those two things don't sound the same. Look, and I get it. I get that sometimes they're not as bad. They're not acute tears or whatever. I think that'll be over the next couple of days. I'll probably be doing a little more homework, not just on the Atlanta Hawks, but on what that decision is like, whether a guy can play through it. I mean, I'll tell you, like I was a little bit surprised. Like he was working out before the game tonight, and obviously not doing anything too stressful, but like he was taking his normal mid-range jump shots. So, yeah, it certainly seems like it's a murky injury that they don't have like the perfect handle on, but that's the story of this team over the past 5 years. If I had to guess though, like, yeah, he'll be back at some point. It just seems like it, but I don't know. They don't know either.
Now you mentioned that word acute, and acute is when I always hear that word, I think of callers Colangelo talking about how Joel Embiid had a tear in his meniscus that was too acute to even report to the media, if you remember that. A couple of days later, he played in a nationally televised game against the Houston Rockets, and then he was done for the season. Again, only 28 games his rookie year. So that's in the back of my mind right now, that the Sixers might take this too lightly, and then the Sixers end up losing them for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a little bit of a different scenario because, Mark, like they weren't good at that time, and it was just kind of like, at that point, it was like, let's just get this guy healthy through a year. He just missed 2 years with a foot injury. Like the calculus on this one is different. Like they could win the championship if everything goes right here. And obviously, I think that the other part of this that I think is really important, and, again, like I don't root for the Sixers anymore, but like I certainly don't want to see Joel Embiid's season end by injury. Like that would stink. I would feel bad for everybody involved. My question would be though, like, if he comes back and plays, like they're going to need him, maybe not this round, but next round, they're going to need him to be the guy who's killing everybody that we just saw like last week. We've seen all season, but the guy who's just been completely dominant, been the best player on the floor pretty much the entire season. And my question is, like, when he comes, if he can come back, can he still be that guy? And maybe he can. He played for like 4 minutes after that. That was a different element of this, but I gotta imagine he's in some serious pain because like this is a guy who I've seen him fall on his back and hurt his knee a million times. He comes back against like bad teams in the regular season. And, so for him to miss a couple of games, it's clearly bothering him, but like good job tonight, taking care of business, giving him a little bit of extra rest. And, we'll see how they manage him coming into this series.
Certainly, Rich, you've made me feel a lot better already. You're right. It was a totally different scenario. I'm just more so worried about the severity of the injury, but you're right. Totally different scenario. Now, let's talk about that game. They're able to eliminate the Wizards in 5 games. They win at home in front of the packed house there at the Wells Fargo Center. Ben Simmons triple-double. This is a guy that a lot of us, myself included, were focusing on the one real big fault of his game, the nick in his game, if you will, which is shooting, foul shooting in particular. And he comes back tonight. He's better from the line. He seems to be more aggressive in the game itself. And again, he comes back with that triple-double. What did you make of Ben Simmons?
I mean, it's the Ben Simmons roller coaster, right? Like one game he struggles and Doc Rivers is screaming at anybody who's pointing out why he's struggling. But, he's this wildly talented guy who can affect the game in a bunch of different ways. And I guess the point I would make is like that team had no prayer of defending him. Like there was one possession, even within this game, within the 19 points that he scored and the triple-double he had, he saw that he had Ish Smith on him and he wouldn't attack. And George Hill was like pointing at him like, no, go. And then he attacked and he found Dwight Howard, and I think Dwight Howard got fouled or whatever. It came really easy to him. Like he looked up midway through the second quarter. He had like 4 points, 3 assists, whatever. They weren't making shots, but as they started to make shots, as he started to see some of the mismatches, and I think the Wizards probably got a little bit tired too. He played really well, and I just I'll say it was like an exhausting first round series on the Ben Simmons Express, right? Like
oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. We had some tough games. People were criticizing the free throw shooting, which was horrible for the most part, and how that was going. Like that's understandable. But he also had, I would say, 3 monster games as well, too. So I don't think that's stopping.
The first free throw, and I agree. The first free throw that he hit in the game, it reminded me of when he hit that 3 against the Guangzhou Long Lions, and everyone went bonkers at the Wells Fargo Center. That was kind of how it felt. And you saw the TV got a great shot of Dwight Howard sitting on the bench, cracking a smile at Ben Simmons actually knocking down the free throw. So the team knows about it as well. Other than Ben Simmons, Seth Curry obviously stepped up, had a great game. He was hitting his shots from the outside. Danny Green had some struggles there. But Tyrese Maxey, I challenge you. There's not that many rookies, especially rookies that are taken in the 20th, in the late first round, that have this much confidence coming off the bench. I thought he was massive impressive tonight. What'd you make of his performance?
It's a continuation of his late season when I thought, like, in some of those games they were shorthanded, he would step up and play really well. And I kind of questioned, okay, this is good. Like they have something here for the future, but he's like a 19-year-old kid. 19-year-old kids don't always play well in the playoffs, and they could still end up being very good players. He was really good in this series, and I think there's just like a level of energy with his speed and his driving ability that he is giving this team right now. He was awesome. Like I think I questioned a little bit, like if Doc would trust a rookie. And Doc, by the way, Doc said after the game tonight, he was kind of recapping Maxey's season, and he was straight up like, he was our worst defensive player in the middle of the year. He was horrible. And that's okay. Rookies, again, like it happens. They need to learn how to play in the NBA. But, he started off hot, had that rough middle stretch, and he's kind of kept going forward and moving up. And now I think he's going to get minutes, moving forward, in the second round of the playoffs, third round of the playoffs, just because that element of like off the dribble is something that they need.
Mm-hmm. And it certainly showed tonight, no doubt about that. When it does come to Ben Simmons, how about the new role that apparently Doc Rivers is going to give him, which is translator to Seth Curry, Doc Rivers' son-in-law, as we all know by now. Ben Simmons and he are both playing video games. Apparently, he's the one that told Seth Curry, hey, go get 30, I'll go get a triple-double, and the rest will be history. It seemed like that version of Seth Curry was definitely reached tonight, no?
Yeah, I thought in terms of like, I would say the whole team stepped up without Embiid, because like when you're replacing an MVP candidate, you need Ben and Tobias to step up. You need Dwight to step up because he's the only center they have. And then you need all the role guys to step up. And I would say pretty much everybody was successful. But among the guys who leveled up, Curry was the most obvious one to me, because, this is a guy, he started off the season really hot from 3, and everybody was like, man, what a great trade this was.
Right.
Gets unlucky, gets COVID probably about 10 games into the season. And then when he comes back from that, he's not quite as good, and I think for reasons that we've seen players around the league struggle with that. But the one thing that kind of, I would say, like, that trade has been largely like a big success. Him for Josh Richardson, like the spacing he provides, it just fits better with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. But the one question I think a lot of us had, and maybe the frustration with Seth Curry this year, is he doesn't take enough threes. Like, he's an unbelievable shooter. And, Doc said it in the middle of the year, like, he leads our team in passing up semi-open shots. And it's like, you're the best shooter. I think at the time, Doc was like, I was a terrible shooter when I played. Like, if I could shoot like him, I would have been shooting all the time. And you saw tonight, like, from the outset, he was super aggressive. He had a very nice matchup. He had little Howell Neto on him, and, Seth does not like tower over many players in the NBA,
Right.
but Howell is one of the guys he does.
Little
And
adorable Howell Neto, yes.
Our old buddy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he was great. I mean, like he was shooting, long threes. He made like 2 guys fall tonight, which I'm not sure we're gonna see all the time. But I would just say like the aggressive mindset from him was awesome to see, because that's normally his problem. He is a world-class 3-point shooter. He's got to get those threes up, man, and he did it tonight, which was great.
He absolutely did. Rich, I got to ask you now about the Atlanta Hawks, a team that, it's funny, during the regular season, Sixers took 2 of 3, especially 2 games that were back-to-back later in the season in late April. But hard to get a gauge, because one game Trey Young wasn't there, another game Ben Simmons got in foul trouble, another game Joel Embiid was just coming off of an injury. It's kind of a weird season series. What do you make of this playoff matchup with the Sixers?
Yep, throw all 3 of those games out, because the other one the Hawks played, it was when Curry had COVID. Simmons wasn't playing. I think they played Embiid and Dwight Howard. Like they started them together. It was crazy. They had nobody. So all 3 of those games, just toss them out completely. Yeah. I think it's a legitimate step up from what this Washington team was. Like this Washington team was not that organized. They didn't have any wings on the defensive end. Like Atlanta, they, obviously Trey Young is their best player, and he is kind of a magnificent offensive player in a different way than Brad Beal is. Like Brad Beal just gets buckets and he scores on you. Like Trey Young controls the whole thing. Like if you help too far, he's setting a guy up for 3. If you don't find the roll man, he's throwing a lob to Clint Capela, who is a very good player. Like, rolls to the rim and has some beef. Like can probably guard Embiid better than most people. I don't think he would stop him, but it would certainly be like in terms of slowing him down. It's interesting. Like I thought with Embiid, it was a series that was going to be harder, but they were definitely going to win. If he doesn't play, like they got some guys, man. They got Bojan Bogdanovic and Trey, and they just have like a lot of interesting young wings. They have John Collins, who's a very talented offensive player, and ever since they made the switch to Nate McMillan in the middle of the year, they've been better than like the 4 seed. They kind of were out of the playoffs when that happened. So this is going to be a tough series. Like this team presents matchup problems on both ends of the floor.
Mm-hmm. So I have to ask you, I don't know if it's a way too early prediction, if we already know, being that as we're taping this interview, it literally just came to fruition that it's happening. What's your way too early prediction for Sixers and Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, so much of it comes down to Embiid. I will hedge and say that we'll see him at some point, and he comes back, and they'll be a little bit better. But I think I'll go on the safe side and say Sixers in 7 right now.
Sixers in 7.
I think if he played, if he was healthy, I'll say this: like let's say Game 4 doesn't happen, I would have said a hard-fought 5. But because I don't know what's going to happen, and the fact that they're probably going to hold him out for a couple games, that's just my guess.
All right, so Sixers go down 0-3. And then Embiid comes back 4 in a row, and then there you go.
Exactly.
Real quick, outside of Philadelphia, Bucks and the Nets now have to battle out in the semifinals now. Who do you like in that series?
Man, that's going to be an awesome series. And, if the Sixers, if they don't have Embiid, like you could tell me that's the NBA finals and they're just going to beat everybody going. I like Brooklyn. I just think that offense, like, is just going to be too much. Like, it's so hard to find answers for those guys. Like I watched a couple of their games against Boston, who, again, they've had their troubles. They had a crazy day today with their stuff, but like they just scored 140 points without really even breaking a sweat. And I do think Milwaukee, like they present a lot of problems. They are a better team than they have been in recent years. Drew Holiday is awesome, and probably like people underrated that acquisition. But I just look and I'll take Kevin Durant, I'll take James Harden and Kyrie Irving in 6 or 7 games probably. So.
It's hard not to. And just last thing for you here, Rich Hofmann from The Athletic. Also check it out, Sixers Beat podcast. You can catch it twice a week, obviously. I just got to get your reaction to this. Ben Simmons, after the game, he posted to social media, and this is how news breaks now, as I'm sure you well know. Ben Simmons after the game. If you see the caption there, I'll zoom in for you right there. I'll have our tech crew zoom in for you. They love me not. They love me. They love me not. that's the fan base, right? That's who's loving him and loving him not. He's not referring to anything else, right? What could it be?
I think it's refreshing in that, at least with Ben, who can be a hard guy to get a read on, a lot of times he is not hiding that he hears the stuff that people are saying about him.
Right.
And like I remember earlier this year, it's funny, they just played the Wizards. The Wizards local announcer called him overrated and making a point that Tobias Harris, was playing better than him or something like that. And he
worthy of the All-Star nod over Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben came back at him. He probably he was a little rough on him. Like, I'm not sure I completely condone that, but at least it was a moment where it was like, all right, at least he's admitting that he sees this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, look, if that fuels him, that's great. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I would just say to him, like, it's a result of sometimes like you not playing completely well. But hey, look, like it seems like when he doesn't play well, he responds with a very good game. So,
absolutely.
That's a starting point, at least.
It's a starting point. Absolutely. Rich Hofmann, the Athletic Sixers Beat podcast as well. Appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully we'll check in with you a little bit later in the postseason, maybe after that Game 7 when Joel Embiid helps him come back from, a 3-0 deficit. First time in history that'll happen in the NBA, so that's fun.
I can't wait.
All right. Rich Hofmann, thanks so much, brother, for joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line. I think I actually forgot to show that to you earlier. My apologies. I'll give it to you one more time. Ben Simmons, shortly after the game last night, put this out there on his Insta account. They love me, they love me not, they love me, they love me not. Ben Simmons said a couple of months ago that he had stopped reading the social media stuff. And as Rich so accurately pointed out, it was shortly thereafter. It was shortly after the criticism around him making it to another All-Star game from the Washington announcer. And after that, he's like, I stopped looking at social media. I don't really look at that stuff anymore. He told it to Rachel Nichols, I believe it was, before an ESPN broadcast in one of the games this season. That was all BS. Ben reads everything. Ben sees everything. I don't necessarily think it's a lot of the talking heads. Maybe Ben Simmons hears Stephen A. Smith. Maybe he hears Charles Barkley. We know Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal got in the head of Joel Embiid before. But I don't think it's necessarily anything from the talking heads, right? I think he's all over social media, though. I wouldn't be shocked if he had a couple of burner accounts, but Ben definitely sees what people are saying, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just every once in a while piped in his own name on Twitter just to see all the people ripping him for what he doesn't do in a basketball game. Regardless, what we saw for Ben Simmons in the second half is the Ben Simmons that nobody is arguing about. That's the hands down, no question about it. Guy that's the perennial all-star. The guy that we saw in the second half. The guy in the first half, not so much. The guy in the second half, absolutely. The guy through the vast majority of the season, absolutely. And the thing that was so frustrating for me in the first half of last night's game was that it was like, hey, Ben, Joel's not playing tonight, right? You need to be aggressive Ben Simmons, right? And then he was in the second half, and that's when it stopped. It stopped being a game, basically. And once again, my thanks to Rich Hofmann joining us from The Athletic and Sixers Beat podcast as well. So make sure you check that out. I do want to tell you about some other great sports sites you can check out, like phlsportsnation.com. That's phlsportsnation.com. You can check out our friends over there at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. phlsportsnation.com. That's Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. DraftKings, I know I had some people hit me up telling me they just signed up for DraftKings. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure you use promo code Farzy. That's right, promo code Farzy when you register at DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook, not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook app. Coming up in our big bet segment, I'll tell you the big bet that I put out there last night and hit on. Thank you so much, Ben Simmons. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate. There are plenty of instructions for people that are new bettors, such as myself. Nearly limitless ways that you can get in on all the action. My friends and family have been really loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and you will too. Listen to this great offer going on right now in the playoffs. DraftKings is putting your courtside knowledge to the test with a chance to turn $1 into $100 in site credits. That's right. You can pick any basketball team in this postseason. Bet $1. And if that team wins, you win $100 in site credits. How about that? Just pick any basketball team that's still in the playoffs, bet $1, and if that team wins, you can win $100 in site credits. Don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook also has great odds and promotions on baseball, hockey, and so much more all week long. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free bets. Bet on basketball, bet on hockey, bet on just about everything. Basketball, you just bet on the basketball team of your choice to win the next game. And if they do so, you can claim $100 in site credits on a $1 bet. That's promo code Farzy for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wagers Wager pays out in site credits. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And how about Steak and Maine? SteakandMaine.com. My man, Tony Cavada, not the biggest Sixers fan in the world last night, but he hits me up on Twitter and he goes, so the Sixers? And I was like, yeah, welcome to the party, pal. And he was all about it. He was all about the Sixers last night. He's even got gifts, all right? He's got gifts of himself with the wine machine gun that I showed you from last week's Farzy in the Field, all that stuff. But he is in on the party when it comes to all things 76ers now. Steak and Maine, fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Whether you dine in a more upscale steakhouse or casual bar and patio, you'll enjoy the highest quality prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. All that and an extensive wine list, including their own Cavada Cellars wines. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland. Voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Check it out for yourself. Go to steakandmaine.com for more information. And finally, I want to tell you about FanUp. I had a lot of fun doing their tier contest last night, picking the starters, getting some points for myself last night. You could do the same with the FanUp app. You can win memorabilia. You can win autographs. You can win brand prizes. You can win so much great stuff from the people of FanUp by simply putting your sports, what you know about sports, the days of playing fantasy sports, those days are over. Fantasy sports, playing them alone, over. Sign up for FanUp. You can win some great brand prizes with FanUp. Squad up with your friends to win even more. Enter their super fun contests throughout the week. It's fun, it's easy, and it's the one place you can win those hottest brand prizes. Any day, any week, any season, you could be the real MVP with the FanUp app. Download the FanUp app in the App Store. Use promo code FanUp and get 2,000 bonus points with the FanUp app when you use promo code FanUp. May the best fan win. Let's jump into our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. We do have a poll question that's out there right now. It has to do with who is the most impressive person to you last night in the 76ers victory. Second half, Ben Simmons is one of the options. That's second half, Ben Simmons. We also have Tyrese Maxey as one of the selections there. We got plenty of people to choose from. We'll update you at the end of the social media check-in. Here's what else we got for you here. A lot of people asking about the sexy, the lovely weather girl. I'll say that. Pretty weather girl. How are you guys putting it? I don't know. But here's what we'll do. We'll go out there and we'll find somebody. All right, if I gotta bring somebody in, if you guys really want to know the weather that bad. 30% chance of rain today. There you go. That do it for you. Anyway, we'll get somebody in to do that for you later. We have a lot of people checking in on Hughes Day. Hughes Day is going to be Friday. All right, so we're gonna talk today. We're gonna talk tonight, and we're actually going to air that tomorrow. So we'll get Hugh's perspective of the Sixers-Hawks matchup. How about Hugh Douglas, by the way? We talked to Hugh a couple of weeks ago, and ever since that, I mean, we talk to him every Tuesday, but with everything going on with the Sixers, we wanted to move it until later in the week. Hugh comes out. We got, the Falcons kick off with the Eagles to start the season, so Atlanta comes into play. What's up, Hugh Douglas? What else do we have? We have Julio Jones being in the news and the Eagles supposedly kicking the tires. What's up, Hugh Douglas? And now we have the Hawks hosting for games 3 and 4 in this series, the 76ers in Atlanta. Once again, what's up, Hugh Douglas? So, of course, we're going to talk to Hugh Douglas tomorrow. We're going to talk to him this week to get caught up on all things Atlanta Hawks and all things Atlanta versus Philadelphia. So don't you worry about that. We got a lot of people checking in. Yeah, no Phillies game, so we got nothing to report on that. They just called it early in the day yesterday. Mally checks in, says good morning. Dan says good morning. Good morning right back at you guys. Brad, what's going on? Appreciate you. John Axelrod, what's up, buddy? How you been, man? What else do we got? Mally, Dan, my guy. All you guys are say nice things to each other. That's just adorable. Maxie, the MVP of this series. I wouldn't go that far necessarily. 3 straight days without a loss. That's a good day. Nick, you are correct. That's something to celebrate there. 30 seconds. Trying to follow. Okay, thank you. It's T-Bro. Warzone is Call of Duty. That is Call of Duty. I was thinking of Fortnite earlier. That's the name I couldn't think of. But yeah, I didn't realize Warzone was part of Call of Duty. I thought there was 2 different things. I haven't really rocked out the Call of Duty that much in my life, but I know that the people have a lot of fun with that. What else do we have? Some new people in the chat. Welcome in. We have somebody I saw earlier that was a normal just podcast listener. They're in the party now, though. They watch the show, so welcome in. Appreciate that. To Jacob saying good morning. What's happening there? Yeah, you guys are brilliant. Taylor, welcome back to the party. Nice to have you. Luigi, I think you were the one saying that you were disappointed earlier in both the fact that we don't have a weather girl and also the fact that I was all hype about possibly having Joel Embiid back last night. Mi scusi, Luigi. I was wrong about that, and I am sorry. And nobody feels worse about it than I do. So how about that? Thanks to everyone that checked in our social media check-in there with our comment section. Appreciate all you fine people. I don't know who's running our account today for the show, but when someone says, as Taylor does, that Mike Scott is cheeks, that means he's ass. So I know that. I'll just say that out loud into a microphone for everybody. Dante, good morning to you as well. All right. It's interesting. Some things that I can't really go into, but I appreciate you guys going into them. Much appreciated. All right. Dante, I am not 62 years old, but I hope to get there one day. Thanks for chiming in, everybody. It is much appreciated. And I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not having success in loading our Twitter question for this day. And I will do my damnedest, ladies and gentlemen, as I think I'm also getting a very blurry screen here. I apologize for that as well. But I do want to get you an update on our Twitter poll question as part of our morning rush, or excuse me, as part of our social media check-in brought to you by the great people of Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. And I want to get that to you because you know what? This is what we do. Seth Curry was the most impressive person last night at 42% of the vote, followed by Tyrese Maxey with 39%. Second half, Ben Simmons, 14%. Now, how about this? Tobias Harris, 28 points. That man, barely impressive. 5% of the vote. So there you go. That was our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Now, how about we get into this? How about we get into our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars and skymotorcars.com. First off, I want to just say thank you. I tweeted this out last night, but I just want to say thank you to Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey has been the MVP, most valuable person, I believe, on this staff, for getting the talent that he has gotten. Tyrese Maxey, a late first-round pick. Thank you for him. Dwight Howard has been great off the bench for the Sixers. He got, 16 minutes in last night, and he had 12 points for you. He had 8 rebounds, almost had a double-double in 16 minutes. He also got you Seth Curry. He also got you Danny Green, who, defensively speaking, I thought was very good last night. His shot was definitely off, as we mentioned earlier. But overall, just want to sing there. I know Doc Rivers gets a lot of the praise because he's there in front of the cameras all the time. But Daryl Morey has been the most valuable person, I think, because you could talk about Doc Rivers being a better coach than Brett Brown, and that's not even a debate. That's a statement of fact. But I don't know how much better that basketball team is. Maybe they get into the second round last year, but they also didn't have Ben Simmons, remember, in the playoffs. So I think it's talent acquisition is the number one thing that really changed this team. Getting the better players, getting the most. Now, this is where Doc Rivers obviously flourished, was getting more out of Ben Simmons, getting more out of Joel Embiid. That was a huge tone change. But without the supporting cast, I don't think they have a shot at making it to the Eastern Conference Finals without Daryl Morey and the changes that he made to this roster above all else. So credit to Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey, appreciation comment. Thank you, Daryl Morey. I also want to get into this. So around the NBA last night, there was some wild stuff. Now, let's start off with the Sixers' opponent here in the second round. That's the Atlanta Hawks, who finished off the Knicks last night 4-1. Hawks won last night 103-89. Trey Young had 36 points. And after the game, well, I shouldn't say after the game, but at the end of the game, hit a shot, turned around, took a bow. He took a bow. Now, why did Trey Young take a bow towards the end of the game last night? Well, I'll let Trey Young explain it as it was on ESPN's post.
Yeah, I mean, the bow is something I did it in high school after I hit a game winner, and leading up to this game, I know where we are. I know it's a bunch of shows around this city, and I know what they do when the show is over. So that's pretty much what it was. So
he wanted to be his own show, the Trey Young Show, and really, if you think about it, this was an insane series for him. You talk about the moment where he's shushing the crowd in game 1. He gets spit on in game 2. The Knicks go out there as fans. The Knicks fans go out there, act like they just won a championship in Manhattan. And then they go to Atlanta, and he dominates in Atlanta, brings it back to New York, and finishes it off. Trey Young really impressed me in that series. He had a great series. He was the lifeblood of that team as he has been since he came back from his own injury earlier in the season. And really, when Nate McMillan took over, it was a totally different ball club. But as Rich Hofmann told us earlier, this is a little bit different when you're talking about a guy like Bradley Beal, who really is an off-ball type of guy that he doesn't really run the offense. That's Russell Westbrook's job. This is going to be different where their scorer and their facilitator is all in one person. So it's going to be an interesting it'll be an interesting thing to see how they match up against them, whether or not you have Matisse Thybulle stay in the starting lineup, which you most likely will, to match up against a guy like Trey Young. You'll certainly see Ben Simmons on him at times throughout the game. Clint Capela finally got going late in the series against the Knicks. He's known more so for his defensive capabilities. He was the leading rebounder in the NBA this year, but he averages 15 points a game. He didn't do that through the first couple of games of this series, but certainly finished it strong. And I don't think there's really any mistake about it. That's when the Knicks really took control of this series, when they had more than just Trey Young going for them. And Clint Capela finally was able to get a little something going for them offensively. But again, defensively and rebounding-wise, that's where you worry more about Clint Capela. I think it's still going to be a close series in terms of game by game. It will be close. But overall, I think the Sixers win this series in 5 or 6 games. I don't see this going a deep 7 or anything like that. So that was the Hawks. Also last night, following some other games, the Jazz and the Grizzlies. Grizzlies really impressed me in that series. Every game except for this last one was pretty much, it was a game where in the fourth quarter it was a game. Now the Jazz won every game that they had Donovan Mitchell in, and Donovan Mitchell now I believe has 11 games in the postseason in his career with 30 or more points for the Jazz. Only Karl Malone has more, and I believe he's in sole possession of second place on that list of 30-point games in the postseason for a Utah Jazz member. But they win last night. The Jazz win 126-110. Grizzlies did impress me in that series. This was wild. The Mavericks-Clippers game last night in Los Angeles. Luka Doncic, recovering from the neck injury, had 42 points last night, 8 rebounds, 14 assists. And there was a chance to win this game, or at least tie it for the Clippers late in the game. And they get a turnover. They start going the other way with it. And I'm trying to think of who it was. Was it Batum? What's the kid's name? They go down the other way. They miss a layup. And I'm thinking, hold on, you're not Paul George. You're not Kawhi Leonard. Why are you taking that ball to try to score it with the game on the line? And they ended up losing the game, obviously. But Luka Doncic was brilliant throughout that game. He was struggling a little bit early. I think came on late from what I saw, at least. I know I saw Mark Cuban go bonkers for a little alley-oop layup to Luka Doncic late in that game. And one of my favorite things on social media right now is the walking side-by-side of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, and they're walking side by side, and the comment is Luka and Kristaps are like Kobe and Shaq, except Luka is Kobe and Shaq. Like he's both Kobe and Shaq. And I'm like, that pretty much sums it up, as a matter of fact. But that's what happened last night. So the Mavericks now have a 3-2 series lead as the series goes back to Dallas. So we'll see if the Mavericks finish off. I had this thought last night. We'll see if the Mavericks can finish off Tyronn Lue and the Clippers. We'll see if the Mavericks can finish off the Clippers. And I'm thinking, wow, what if Tyronn Lue was the head coach of the Sixers team and they find themselves in this spot? Interesting. That was just rattling around in my brain yesterday. So that was our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Did I have a busy night last night? Oh, wait, in our morning rush, I promised I'd get you guys this. Ben Simmons, after the game, was asked, after the win last night, was asked about how he values his performance, how he would evaluate his performance, especially in Game 5 and moving on to the next round of playoffs. What did he have to say about his own game? Here's Ben Simmons.
That we're going to the next round. That's really it. And that was our mentality and our job coming in tonight to make sure we end it now and move on to the next round.
That's it. No other way to explain it. Doc Rivers, of course, was asked about his facilitator, his all-star, one of his 2 all-stars, and what Ben Simmons brought to the table last night, especially on the defensive end of things. Here is Doc Rivers on Ben Simmons.
Stick with him. He's a hell of a player. Just stick with him. He's a hell of a player, but he's also human. He's going to have some great games, far more great games than more bad and less bad, and that's who he is. But he just does so much for the team. He really does. I mean, we kept him out there because Scotty decided that they wasn't taking Bradley Beal out. And, we had to give Matisse a rest, and then we put Ben on him. We anticipated they were going to rest Beal, and they didn't, so Ben had to stay out there. And, Ben was dying out there. They all were, but they hung in there.
All right. Congrats, Doc.
Thanks.
Everything that Doc said was on point, just on point, considering especially the way that Ben Simmons played in that second half, as I've said many times already. All right, now let's move on to our big bets. Our big bet segment brought to you by DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. Ladies and gentlemen, your boy had a good night last night. I told you, take the Sixers. At the time, they were -6.5. I jumped on them at 6.5. Got him at 6.5. Obviously, that hit, so I hope I won you some money last night. What else happened last night? I looked at Ben Simmons, and I said, you know what? Ben Simmons in a game like last night, Ben Simmons is going to get over the 17.5. Ben Simmons got over the 17.5 last night for those 76ers, and he handled his business. So there you go. I bet Ben Simmons to get over 17.5 points. I bet Ben Simmons to get a triple-double. Huh? Yeah. So I want some money there from DraftKings. Thank you, DraftKings. And then I also bet for him to get over the 17.5. I also bet first basket. That was a mistake. But other than that, it was a pretty good night for me. And you, too, can have a good night with DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. If I have to bet, I'm taking the Sixers in 6. I'm taking the Sixers in 6 to win this game. I think they can win it in 5. But I'm like, you know what? If I think they can win it in 5, chances are I'm being a little bit of a homer. So let's go with 6. I'm just going to go with 6 right here. Sixers taking the series in Game 6 in Atlanta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Always a pleasure. Tomorrow we'll have Hugh Lamont Douglas III. Tomorrow we'll also have Todd Harriman's join the show. He's going to be a part of something that we're going to be doing on Monday after the show. So Todd Harriman's going to join us and talk some football and also what he's getting involved in right now post-playing career. Hope you guys enjoy all that is NBA playoffs. Tonight, Thursday night, the Nuggets are going up against the Trailblazers. Suns going on against the Lakers, hoping to wrap that series up. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you download wherever you get your podcasts and also click subscribe on our YouTube page as well. Jim Hyden produced the program. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. I'm Marc Farzetta here at the Steven Singer Studios. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Let's go Sixers. Take it easy.